I'd now like to introduce our distinguished witnesses and thank all of you today for being here with us. First, we have Dr. Nathaniel Hendren, Professor of Economics at Harvard University and founding co-director of Opportunity Insights. His work has documented the extent of equality of opportunity across a range of domains, from the inability of individuals to purchase insurance to the difficulties faced by low-income children seeking upward mobility, and more recently, the disparities in intergenerational mobility experienced by children of different races. Welcome, Dr. Hendren.
Thank you. So I do have some presented slides. I don't know if it's possible to show them on the screen. If it is, feel free, and if there is a clicker for the slides, I would be delighted to use it. If not, I'm happy to just roll. All right. So thank you for the opportunity to be here to talk with you today. I think like many of us, I grew up inspired by the notion of the American dream, this idea that every child should have an opportunity to climb that income ladder. In my research with a broad set of collaborators, we try to measure the extent to which we live up to this ideal. Unfortunately, our research shows that this dream is simply out of reach for too many children. There are many ways of quantifying the American dream, but one way to measure it is to ask what fraction of children grow up to earn more than their parents in adulthood. Now, we find that for children born in 1940, the American dream was nearly a guarantee. 90% of those kids grew up to earn more than their parents. But today, only half of children grow up to earn more than their parents. Now, another measure of the American dream is the likelihood that a child born in the bottom of the income distribution grows up to reach the top regions of the income distribution, sort of the ability to go from rags to riches. Now, if incomes in adulthood were perfectly independent of one's background, we would expect that 20% of those with low-income parents would grow up to reach the top fifth of the income distribution in adulthood. But in the US, only 7.5% of children whose parents are in the bottom fifth of the income distribution grow up to reach the top fifth of the income distribution. Now, perhaps perfect mobility of 20% is too high of a standard. Another benchmark is to think about comparing across countries. Here again, the US lags behind. In the UK, 9% of children grow up to reach the top fifth from low-income backgrounds, 11.7% in Denmark, 13.5% from Canada, and 15.7% in Sweden. Now, this broad pattern in the US masks the fact that there are places in the United States where the American dream is alive and well. Rates of upward mobility vary dramatically across the country, and even within cities. In some neighborhoods, for example, in Provo, Utah, children from low-income families grow up to earn $66,000 on average at age 35. In contrast, low-income children who grow up in parts of inner Baltimore with parents of the same income backgrounds earn on average only $16,000 in adulthood. Now, upward mobility varies even more when we compare across neighborhoods within cities. As we've documented in the Opportunity Atlas, children who grow up just a few miles apart in families with comparable incomes have very different later life outcomes. For example, children who grow up in other parts of Provo, Utah earn just $30,000 a year on average, less than half of their counterparts at $66,000. Or to take another example here in Midtown Manhattan, where poor children growing up on either side of 3rd Avenue earn either $28,000 a year or $45,000 a year on average in adulthood. And so these striking disparities raise the natural question, why do outcomes differ so dramatically across places in the United States? Now, our results suggest that the outcomes we see today of people in adulthood have their roots in the neighborhood environments in which these children grew up. Every year, a child spends growing up in a neighborhood with higher rates of upward mobility increases their incomes in adulthood. And so the message is simple: neighborhoods matter. Where we grew up shapes our outcomes in adulthood. If we can improve the neighborhood environments for children, especially for those who are most disadvantaged among us, we can increase upward mobility in the United States. The variation in the Opportunity Atlas, we believe, provides a learning opportunity that can inform such efforts, where we can attempt to replicate the successes of places with high rates of upward mobility. Now, across the US, we do see that places with higher rates of upward mobility tend to be places where children are growing up in neighborhoods with lower poverty rates, stronger measures of school quality, stronger family structures, and stronger measures of social capital. I do want to be clear today. While we can identify the characteristics of neighborhoods that tend to promote high rates of upward mobility, current limitations prevent us from identifying the best policies for improving upward mobility, and to that aim, I look forward to an extensive discussion. And I'm excited about our ongoing endeavors and collaborations on our end with researchers at the Census Bureau and Treasury Department to further understand these potential pathways to promoting upward mobility. Uncovering the recipe for success won't be easy, but thanks to access to administrative data and support of government research, I do believe we can make progress on this important question. And more generally, I'm delighted to be here today to discuss how we might learn from evidence to inform policies that might improve upward mobility. And while I know there's a lot of disagreement in politics, it is my hope and belief that an evidence-based approach to improving upward mobility and opportunity for all of our children is a purpose that spans party lines and allows us to begin to restore the American dream. So thank you for letting me be here today.